cameo. That's great. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it. Welcome into the 615 Sessions podcast. You are looking live at Radio Row, Super Bowl 58. That smiling face is Jim Wyatt. That collection of dirty, unwashed, probably drunk media people is Super Bowl 58 Radio Row. The great one joins us now. Hey, buddy.
How you doing there, Buck? I'm holding my camera up so you can see who's behind me. It's Flavor Flav is sitting in the seat right behind me back there. You probably can't tell from where you are, but that's my man Flavor Flav.
So that's your man. Have you met with Flavor Flav? Have you asked him his opinion on Brian Callahan? You've asked literally every other person in Vegas their opinion on Brian Callahan as the new Titans head coach.
I've not asked him. I have crossed paths with him before. Actually, he performed at some Super Bowl event before, I guess, the Dave Matthews Band last year in Phoenix. He didn't know I was in the stands, but he was there for that, and I've crossed paths with him at these events in the past, but he would know probably Brian Callahan from Bill Callahan, and I don't know that he's too locked in on the Titans. He's doing something with the Raiders right now. I get the sense he's a Raiders guy based on his attire.
So Jimmy is at Super Bowl 58, and obviously he's covering the Super Bowl from the local angle. Wyatt, not only is Levis a high-level quarterback, apparently he's a high-level poker player and a ping-pong player. Before we talk about what you spoke with Will Levis Wednesday, before his ping-pong match, what has it been like documenting the week that Will Levis and Jeffrey Simmons have had this week in Vegas?
Well, it's been crazy. I mean, the Super Bowl is always a spectacle, and the week leading up to it is always just a frenzy, especially leading up to kickoff. Having it in Vegas has taken it to a whole nother level. Will Levis has been a part of my week. I did watch him play. I never thought I'd be out here to covering a ping pong match Super Bowl with Will Levis, but that's where I ended up, inside the Luxor Hotel at some one of the little small arenas there, him taking on Trevor Lawrence. And he's actually a pretty good table tennis player. You see some of his returns, putting on a little bit of a show, showed a little bit of swagger and doing it. Talked to Trevor Lawrence about it afterward. I mean, it was kind of fun. And Will Levis has had an interesting week. As you mentioned, the poker. You mentioned the table tennis. He also played in a Pro-Am tournament with Phil Mickelson and got some golfing tips from him, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I didn't even realize that. He brought that up in our conversation and said Phil Mickelson gave him like a 10-minute lesson while they were on the course, and said later in the round he chipped one in from the 15th hole for a birdie and then made a birdie putt after that. So, but his week has been, he's had a busy week. He's been spending some time at the beach, trying to decompress, trying to get healthy. Talked to him about, obviously, Brian Callahan, about the departure of Mike Vrabel, about his health, about his thoughts moving forward. And it seems like he's in a pretty good place and plans to return to Nashville and be back in the building on Tuesday. As far as Jeffrey Simmons, I was with him at NFL Honors last night. Again, he talked about Mike Vrabel and how much he liked him and hate to see him go, but he's met Brian Callahan, likes him, feels like the direction they're going is a good one, and has a lot of faith in Ray Carthon. Feels like he's at a place in his career where he can be, a guy who delivers the message and gets people on board, and said that, while he knows not everybody understands what has transpired or why it transpired, what's important now is that everybody get on board and start moving in the same direction. He's going to do his part to make that happen.
Right. So going back to Levis, and by the way, you can read everything that Jimmy's writing from the Senior Bowl, from the Pro Bowl, from the Super Bowl, because Wyatt has been at all three in the last 2 weeks, at TennesseeTitans.com. Going back to Levis, though, Jimmy, it's such a different year for him because he comes into 2024 knowing that he's the guy. He was the third-string quarterback until Week 8 when they put him back into the lineup. So that amount of clarity, coupled with what we expect this new coaching staff to help him accomplish based on their background, from Brian Callahan down the line to the staffers that the staff that they've hired officially yet. I know there's some unofficial stuff that's been reported as well. It does seem like there are a lot of things that are working in the right direction for this quarterback to be able to maximize his potential.
Yeah, I think so. And I need to point out, so my wife won't wonder either. I did not make the Senior Bowl this year. Mike Keith did that for us. Yeah, because there was so much stuff going on in Nashville, I decided just to do the Pro Bowl, left midweek. And so I've been on the road from Orlando to here since, I guess, a week ago Wednesday. First time I missed the Senior Bowl in probably 10, 15 years. But we've got plenty of time between now and then to catch up with the draft prospects. But I do agree with you on things working in his direction to put him in a position to be successful with an offensive-minded coach, with the quarterback's coach now that, as you said, is not official, but who's worked with some good quarterbacks in the past, with an owner who clearly believes in him, and she said it, after the departure, during the process of making the coaching change, and now the Titans have got to help him out from a personnel acquisition standpoint, whether that's in the draft, whether that's in free agency. This team's got to be better around him. They got to protect him. He said he feels as healthy as he's felt in 25 months now because he's been so banged up and his life been such a whirlwind since he was picked. And he's finally in a position where he feels like he can do everything he wants to do. And what's got to happen now is they've got to keep it that way. And that means they got to get a better O-line. They got to take pressure off of him where he doesn't feel like he has to do so much. And it's a big offseason for him. Learning a new offense again, getting to know a new head coach, and kind of putting to use what he was able to learn last year as a rookie.
As is the custom with these Super Bowls, you're talking to so many different people about so many different ties, whether they're Titans players who have been on this roster before. I saw Titans legend Matt Dickerson and Sam O, Logan Ryan, you caught up with it at Super Bowl media night and all those kind of things. But from doing background on the team and the version of the team that we'll be covering in 2024, Jimmy, who was the most interesting or enlightening conversation that you had about Brian Callahan with this week at the Super Bowl?
Well, the most enlightening one I've had on my travels has easily been Peyton Manning. I talked to him in Orlando and just, his insight on Callahan, his insight on Derrick Henry, and feeling like he thinks Brian Callahan and Derrick Henry would be a perfect match. His insight just on the direction he thinks Will Levis can go with Brian Callahan. That was easily the most, enlightening one to me. I've talked to Warren Moon here. I've talked to Tony Romo here. I've talked to Rich Gannon here. I've talked to Dan Orlovsky here. I've talked to Charles Davis here. I've talked to Boomer Esiason here. And all of them feel like that, like we were talking about earlier, Will Levis is in a good place as far as having a guy that's going to help him. Now, all those guys, not every one of them gave, Will Levis a 100% positive review. All of them, most of them like what they've seen and think he has talent, but they also acknowledge that he's still a work in progress. He's got to clean some things up. Some of the easy throws that he missed last year, he's got to get better at doing. He's got to make better decisions. So I think a culmination of all that, being out here covering for the team, and you're right, I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people have some great things to say. And somebody said to me, anybody saying anything to you that would surprise me? And that I work for the team, and I'm writing things for the website that give people perspective on what people across the league are saying. If somebody is going to rip Will Levis or say, I don't think this guy's ever going to amount to anything, that's probably not going to make the website. But I can tell you that you can gain knowledge from talking to people and what they have to say. And I try to be fair with the critique. And I think people have been fair in what I've written too. Not everybody said this guy, is a slam dunk future Hall of Famer. A lot of them are acknowledging he has some work to do, and that's part of having all these conversations.
Okay, true to my word, I'm going to get you out of here in 10 minutes. So in the last 15
yeah, and I got a little. I've got a. Well, look at here. You got a better view of Flavor Flav here right behind me. Here too. Can you see the flavor?
Oh yeah, It's taking selfies the whole way around.
Yeah.
A Flavor Flav cameo on the 615 Sessions podcast.
Right here where it's not terrible.
That's well, I'm glad that we've been able to catch up with you, Jimmy. But as is the custom at Super Bowl, everybody on Super Bowl Radio Row is selling something, right? So in your last time with us here, I want you to sell us, do a live read for that mechanical pencil that you've been carrying around in your ear for probably a decade at this point. Can you sell the audience on the mechanical pencil brand that Jim Wyatt's visit with us today is presented by?
Well, this one is presented to you by, I've lost the damn clip on this one. This was presented to you by Bic, the 0.9. And the 0.9 is key because it's a thicker lead. I think there's some 0.5s out there, 0.7s, and
oh, Jimmy, we almost made it to the end before the stream froze with Jim Wyatt, but it's gotten a little rocky on our end, Jimmy. So if you can still hear me, I appreciate you taking some time. That's the great one, Jim Wyatt from the Super Bowl. It froze up just at the end of your live read, Jimmy, but that sounds like a perfect place for us to land the plane.
Yeah, and I was give you the good rundown on that pencil too. So I hope you got most of that. So if anybody's looking for a Bic, they know which kind to get.
We got all of it. I appreciate your time as always, buddy. Continue the great work and safe travels home.
Okay. Buck, appreciate you having me. Keep
That's the great one.